The situation is dire, I think, for many people. I mean, if we think about just the data on what is going on here, I mean, I would put like EB2 and EB3 in one category and then look at EB1 separately for a moment in terms of assessing the current situation. The data that is out there indicates it will take to get through that just 2013 alone. The backlog that exists for people with priority date of 2013 alone will take 8 years. What they need to demonstrate is that they've published some academic work which is highly regarded, which has been maybe taught in some universities. It's been cited by other, academics in a wide way, and it was talked about in conferences, so on and so forth.
Personally know a lot of people on EB2 and 3 categories, and they're very well eligible even for EB1A. NIW could be a low-hanging fruit just to make them a little safer.
The only way that NIW will make sense is if they have a 2013, 2014 priority date. If they don't have PERM, if they don't have an I-140, then certainly they should do NIW.
There has been some regulatory changes happen earlier this year. Are those good changes? Have they opened up criteria even more flexible, or like they tightened it? Because news are all about tightening the immigration system, make it slow and tough. But like how those regulatory changes are impacting this queue.
I love entrepreneur-based EB1A cases, one of my favorite areas. You say that I'm filing this I-140 because I'm going to engage permanently in a professional activity as an individual of extraordinary ability.
When I got my green card by changing my employment category from EB2 to EB1, which saved me about 10 years of the wait time, I made promise to myself that I should help others also, so you guys can save your time as well. When I was going to share my learning and experience online, I noticed there are already a lot of people doing it, which is not wrong. But what I also noticed is there is a lot of miscommunication happening, which is causing more confusions than helping others. So I decided to do it the right way. This information should come not only from experience, but also from an authorized person. Today, I have Sharif Silmi, a leading US immigration attorney who have helped a lot of tech professionals get the green card much faster through EB1A and NIW categories. So let's dive in before waiting any further. Hi Sharif, welcome.
Hey Nav, nice to be here with you.
We would like to focus today especially the long queue for the tech guys who are waiting for the green card for a very long time and then still have to wait for another 10 to 20 years. I'm talking about EB1, EB2, EB3 specifically. And those are great people, good for the country. They are paying regular taxes, doing no crimes, family people, and very socialized. And they have kids born here, and they're still waiting for a very long time. We would like to discuss today, like how can we help them be aware of the process and how can they speed track or change their strategy to get to the green card faster. If we look at numbers, like nearly 1.2 million are just from EB2 and EB3 categories, and nearly 150,000 from EB1 category. And like that makes to nearly 2 million people, genuine people, eligible and good for the country, waiting for a long time to get the green card. With your expertise, with your experience, and I know personally a few of the folks taken advantage from your consultation, got a good success rate. So how can you help those people understand their situation and how to get to the green card faster? Any thoughts?
Yeah. The situation is dire, I think, for many people. I mean, if we think about just the data on what is going on here, I know right now, I mean, I would put like EB2 and EB3 in one category and then look at EB1 separately for a moment in terms of assessing the current situation.
Right.
Most people who qualify for, at this point, particularly those with priority dates dating back to 2013 and 2014 and 2015 and so on and so forth. If you qualify for EB2, you qualify for EB3, and if you qualify for EB3, you're going to qualify for EB2, just based on, everybody has a bachelor's degree and based on experience, right? So EB3 is April 2013, and EB2, I think, is January 2013. For all intents and purposes, we're talking about April 2013 as a priority date. Now, the data that is out there indicates it will take to get through that just 2013 alone. The backlog that exists for people with priority date of 2013 alone will take 8 years. That is to say,
Wow.
we're going to be dealing with 2013 until 2033. And that's without any, obviously, legislative changes, which I don't think there will be any. I've been hearing about legislative changes for the past 12 years and nothing's happened, right? And with the government we have now, I don't think it's going to happen. So we're seeing that essentially the only option that exists for people in that category, like if you are anyone who is in EB2, EB3, has a PERM approval, and you're looking to remain permanently in the US, you almost have to seek EB1A. Or you could say EB1C or EB1B for researchers. But I think the problem with EB1C is that if you've been here that long, probably you're pretty entrenched into the society that leaving the United States, working abroad for 2 years is quite fundamentally, risky and disruptive to your children's lives and to your own life. And then the other big thing about it is, like, how do you really know your company is going to sponsor you when you get back?
And is it really worth taking that risk?
Is it really worth taking that risk, right? Because at the end of the day, maybe your manager changes. Maybe whoever's supposed to sign the the I-140 on behalf of the organization reneges on that offer. So you can't really trust it. And if one is like working in let's say a consulting company, and the organization says, okay, well, right now we're doing billing on behalf of this person's work with the end client, but as soon as he gets his green card, we're not going to be able to do billing anymore.
It's a little biased too. Yeah.
Sorry?
It's a little biased as well from the company side.
Oh yeah, the companies are terrible. I mean, that's why I love Self-petition, is because essentially you're liberating yourself from the shackles of the HR and the corporate mentality. I mean, especially with the advent of AI, I mean, they're looking at people like expendable resources at this point. So I think that it is creating a situation where EB1A is becoming and has become one of the only options for folks. And I've been advocating for EB1A and for more than 12 years. I think we looked at EB1A for business related contributors for more than 12 years ago and started doing it. And so we've had a lot of experience in this, and I've been very consistent with the approach, and it's worked really well. And that is sometimes a point of frustration for people who want a very quick solution, because to be honest with you, if you're looking at a 50-year or maybe lifetime never having a green card because you have a 2020 priority date and you're sitting in an EB2 or EB3 backlog, and you come to me with a $150,000, $180,000 salary and say, I want my case approved in 1 month, I'm going to tell you, go kick rocks, man. Like, I'm sorry, bro. It's not going to happen. So, and then you're going to say, oh, I have an iJert publication. Oh, I have Globia review. I don't give a damn. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You want to get EB1A approved? I'll get you EB1A approved. But you need to relax a little bit, and you need to understand that we're going to save you 49 years of your life, and we're going to get your case approved. So if you want a qualitative approach that's actually based on the real things that you've done in your life, that is the way that you get EB1A approved. Because even those cases, and I've seen firms that say, we'll write your petition in 1 day. Obviously, they're using AI. I mean, you use AI yourself if you're going to go that route, right? So you need not only a qualitative, thoughtful approach, but you need a winning strategy from the outset. So if you don't understand a winning strategy, and we could talk about what a winning strategy looks like, then you're going to be in trouble.
So life in America is very expensive, and there is a lot of information available all over the places on the internet. And tendency of people is like doing it yourself. Like we do a lot of projects at home ourselves, and which makes sense too. But touching legal aspect is always risky by doing it yourself. But again, there is a lot of information, and human tendency. We think like, okay, we can do it right. Like similarly, before going to doctor, also we try to learn about the situation or symptoms a lot ourselves.
Yeah.
So especially for EB1, since it's very popular lately. So can you touch on a little bit? Of course, I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself, but from your perspective, can you talk about little like what roles are eligible? Because it's very generic. Okay, if you're on EB2, EB3, you should go to EB1A. But what in that aspect, like what are the job roles or like years of experience or like which are
Sure.
right off the bat are not eligible, but they may be after
Mhm.
consultation, but like some start point of the information and not go to EB1A, but should prioritize NIW first on this path. So what are
Yeah,
the separation in this
that's
case?
a great question. Look, I think that, just like when one is sick and has an ailment and they go to a doctor and the doctor decides what kind of treatment or what kind of medicine is needed to fix the ailment, that's how I would look at EB1A and NIW. So, for example, NIW might be appropriate for an individual who is on an H1B.
Like how those regulatory changes are impacting this queue.
On paper, they opened up NIW to theoretically make it easier for one who is in a STEM field. So many of, our folks would benefit from that. So let me address two things that you mentioned. One is regarding whether, DIYing it is possible and should happen. And then the other is what roles would be eligible for EB1A. So I'm not like a purist as it relates to like, should one not DIY? I mean, like if you're in that desperate of a situation, if money's so tight, I mean, look, you never know. It could work. I mean, your odds of success are probably not great. I mean, like right now, if we look at the approval rate for Indian nationals general, and we don't really know which ones are represented by attorneys and which ones are non-represented by attorneys, but it's something like 32% of approval in the EB1 category.
In the last 12 months time?
This is 2024, so this is even before.
Okay, about a year and a half. Just in
Correct.
2024, like January
Just
to December. Okay,
yeah,
34%,
about 32%.
32%. Oh.
Yeah, it was. I think the previous year was 41%.
Oh, it's reducing because of the quality or like volume?
I
Okay.
think it's quality.
Quality. Oh, okay.
And so, like, I know my data. Like, we're over 90% approval rating. So,
Wow.
like, if I'm talented and I know I can make money, then for me, it's worth spending money on an attorney and hiring them, because ultimately, like, the value and the feeling of knowing ultimately I'm going to be, able to have a permanent residency. I'm going to be able to start businesses. I'm going to be able to have my kids go to college and not have to pay out of state tuition. The value of all of those things is so great that
Yep.
like investing an extra, whatever it is, 10, 15 grand versus not maybe spending that other money on, saving it, to me is worth it. Right.
It's worth it.
So that's a decision people have to make. But if you are going to DIY it, I probably, I would just say is don't fall into the traps of following everything said in immigration forums. I think there's a lot of misguidance in those forums. I've
Okay.
read the forums. I mean, I look at it, and if you look at the videos I have on the Silmi Law YouTube channel, like you could look 4 years back, 7 years back at the videos. And I'm saying to people, do not do Globee Awards, do not do Stevie Awards, do not do, and it's like, people are like, why? What is he talking about? I know people that have done it and got approved. Fine. I've included it at times, but one thing I can guarantee you, it's never been a central element in a case for me. Like, you have to have a qualitative narrative. You have to have work business related contributions. If, for example, an individual, let's say they work for a state healthcare agency, right? And they've developed a Obamacare healthcare marketplace website, right? That is used by tens of millions of people to purchase and access healthcare. And they've optimized it. They made it so user-friendly. It's accessibility standards are really high. All of these things, right? Why in the hell would that person base their case on a paid PR of reviewing and judging where they paid $100 to become a judge, right? That's the mistake that people are making who are doing DIY and also some, I would call it paper pushers as far as attorneys go, right? We're not going to
Okay.
do that. We're going to say like qualitative approach. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to think about strategy. And sometimes people get frustrated because it does take longer to do a qualitative approach, particularly because this category of immigration wasn't made for the average person. It's made for an extraordinary individual. Therefore, we need to have a narrative and we need to present a case to the adjudicator that leaves no doubt when they read that case and when they view the evidence that this person is special, right? So if I cannot make that person special, I'm not going to submit the case. And I tend to find that those who are like, come to me and say, oh, I've been working on my case for a year. It's perfect. I know everything about EB1A. I have all the evidence. All I need you to do is, prepare and submit the brief. I find 90% of those cases have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
So, yeah, I would recommend going by attorney's expertise to the listeners as well. Let's say like a project manager in the company. Okay, so with a very generic role but have like a longer experience versus an AI guy, AI innovator who is just barely starting his career and has done PhD and like doing work in the area which is most and highly paid and demanding right now, right? So among these two, like they both may have extraordinary abilities. So what is your guidance?
They both might qualify, but I would say the project manager, what we need to do is look at his projects. Here's the thing we have to understand about projects, and this is probably something that a lot of people misunderstand. If one is to consider the regulatory criteria as it relates to somebody who's a technology contributor, essentially you fit within a framework of what's called a business-related contributor. So if you're thinking about EB1A, there's basically 5 verticals that exist. There's scholarly related contributors. That's somebody who's like an academic. Scientific related contributors. That's somebody who's more into research and innovation. So when you say research and development, the scientific is more development. And then you have education related contributors. You have athletic related contributors, right? So if I were to need EB1A, I would have to be, extraordinary athletic contributor because I'm such a great athlete. That's a joke, obviously. And then the last one, which is the most important one, and the one that applies to everybody out there, I think, is a business-related contributor. I mean, it specifies it in the regulatory criteria that you can submit your case as a business-related contributor, and artistic-related contributor also. So, like, if somebody's an artist, they're creating a painting, right? Or a whatever sculpture. So for their EB1A case, the most important thing that they need to demonstrate is that their artwork has been exhibited in some like exhibition somewhere. And that exhibition is highly reputed, right? Now, for somebody who's an academic or a scholarly related contributor, what they need to demonstrate is that they've published some academic work, which is highly regarded, which has been maybe taught in some universities. It's been cited by other, academics in a wide way, and it was talked about in conferences, so on and so forth. The confusion that exists among people is a business-related contributor thinks he needs or she needs to go and do the academic thing. And you don't. What you need to do is you need to demonstrate that your business-related contribution is significant to your own field in your own industry. So you asked, like, which industry is better? The industry that's better is the one that you are able to narrowly define. Like, it doesn't really matter what your industry is if you're generally in technology. What matters is where do you fit within the industry or within the profession that you've outlined.
True, that's right. So, in short, like any role, regardless, like project manager, scrum master, engineering, of course, is directly related to technology, but anything else that contributes to the business around technology or digital transformation is eligible.
Correct. I tend to think individual contributors um, have an advantage over people who are in like individuals who are like in people management roles, which
Really, that's interesting.
yeah. So I mean, I just think it fits the criteria better. It doesn't mean that the thing about one who is in a people management role is that you basically have to claim the contribution of those who you are responsible for. So as long as you could do that, then it's fine. But it tends to be easier to demonstrate responsibility for a contribution that you've personally been involved in developing. So like if I've personally developed the healthcare marketplace for the state of Alaska, right? That is an indication that I'm responsible for a specific business contribution. That's called originality in the framework of the EB1A case. Now, if I'm just managing 20 engineers and each one is working on a different project and those projects are related to like addressing client needs for an existing product, and I'm not doing anything to innovate a new product or create a new solution, it's more challenging than the individual who's actually developing a new solution. It doesn't mean that it can't
Okay.
happen, but I would say the individual contributor might have an advantage over one who is just overseeing like a sales team.
Okay. So between NIW, which is specific to EB2 segment, and then EB1A, you are highly recommending EB1A, which is, I think, should be way to go for everybody. But who should not or who cannot go to EB1A, but should prioritize NIW first on this path? So what are
Yeah,
the separation in this
that's
case?
a great question. Look, I think that, just like when one is sick and has an ailment and they go to a doctor and the doctor decides what kind of treatment or what kind of medicine is needed to fix the ailment, that's how I would look at EB1A and NIW. So, for example, NIW might be appropriate for an individual who is on an H1B. And you know how we talked about like HR departments. And look, I'm kind of maybe on a certain political spectrum where I look very suspiciously at corporations. And the way that the corporations and certain HR departments have dealt with human beings and workers is such that they don't give a damn about their lives and the impact on their livelihoods, right? So what they do, particularly with folks who are from other countries and working on an H1B, is they'll wait till like the 5th year of their H1B. So they've 3 years and then they do H1B renewal. Now they're in the 4th year. Now they're in the 5th year. And then they're ending the 5th year and starting the 6th year, which would be the last year of eligibility on their H1B.
True.
And they do not have an I-140, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know this
That's
scenario?
Yep. I
This
agree.
person,
Yep.
this person, before they even get into their 3rd year, when they're sitting on their H1B and they're working in a corporate setting, they should be thinking about EB2 NIW and not waiting for the 5th or 6th year of their H1B to start to depend and wait for the promise of PERM. Because if they're able to get the NIW within the 1st, 2nd, 3rd year of their H1B before that H1B renewal, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for them. For example, they will be able to change jobs without having to worry about, is the new employer going to file my PERM or not? I could be more flexible with which employer I go with because I don't care about their PERM approval statistics. And most importantly, I have a priority date already set so that when I continue to build my profile beyond national interest waiver, then I'll have a strategic advantage when ultimately filing for EB1A and getting that approved. So that's the way that I kind of think about NIW. EB1A, now somebody who already has PERM and they already have a priority date, and they're simply just change. Now, if somebody already has PERM and a priority date, but their date is like recent, 2023, 2024, 2022, probably NIW is not going to help them too much because we're never going to get to those dates. So I'm serious. We're never, and they already have a priority date. So there's no point. Unless they're unmarried and then they're like going to marry a non-Indian. So I'm speaking to Indians basically right now. All right.
Yep.
Indian national. Now, for one who has a 2013 or even 2014, I guess, but let's say a old priority date, they should do NIW because God forbid they get laid off or something happens with their employer just before their date becomes current. You have a plan B with an NIW as the basis to file for adjustment of status. All right.
Sure.
So that's NIW. Any questions about NIW? That's like how NIW matters to Indian nationals. If you're not in those categories, then probably NIW is not going to help you much because you're still going to be an EB2 at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I personally know a lot of people on EB2 and 3 categories, and they're very well eligible even for EB1A. And at the same time, there is a gray area, like how long it's going to take for EB1, and then the financial aspect, and the do-it-yourself confusions. So NIW could be a low-hanging fruit just to make them a little safer. But again, like the EB1 should be the way to go. Finally,
the question is, do they have a I-140 already, PERM? If they do, the only way that NIW will make sense is if they have a 2013, 2014 priority date. Otherwise, it's not going to do much for them. It's not going to do anything for them.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If they don't have PERM, if they don't have an I-140, then certainly they should do NIW.
And there has been some regulatory changes happen earlier this year, which I'm not really aware of, but I heard that there has been some changes. Are those good changes? Have they opened up criteria even more flexible, or like they tightened it? Because news are all about tightening the immigration system, make it slow and tough. But like how those regulatory changes are impacting this queue. The way to go for external references as such, networking is very important. Go outside company, don't stay back home. Go outside, meet people, meet industrialists, meet influencers, and network with them, build rapport with them.
The ability of those individuals will correlate to the strength of your petition. So like if all I have is my cousin and my brother-in-law, like adjudicator can tell. And if all your letters are just AI blither blather, adjudicator can tell.
If they can start it sooner than they get their EAD and green card, what they should be looking at.
Yeah, so I love entrepreneur-based EB1A cases, one of my favorite areas. And even if one is working in a company because of the limitations of their visa, we can still make an entrepreneurship-based EB1A.
For O1A, is there any initial funding requirement, seed funding?
So you got to be able to afford the salary. So the company has to be able to demonstrate its ability to pay the salary that's going to be prescribed to the individual who is the beneficiary of the O1A. So on paper, they opened up NIW to theoretically make it easier for one who is in a STEM field. So many of our folks would benefit from that. Practically, though, there's been a much higher level of scrutiny being placed on NIW because as soon as the regulatory changes opening it up for STEM-related professionals opened up, they were flooded with cases. So then they started tightening. Now that tightening relates to a particular area. So just really quickly on national interest waiver. Essentially, national interest waiver is available to one who is a master's degree professional or has more than 5 years of experience and a bachelor's degree, or can demonstrate what's called exceptional ability. I'm not going to go into that, but basically it's somebody with a master's degree or higher. And then you have to prove 3 requirements in order to qualify for the waiver. So what is a national interest waiver? It is a waiver of PERM. Waiver of PERM. So you're waiving PERM. You're saying, I don't need an employer to provide me with a permanent job offer because I'm so important to U.S. interests. And what you need to demonstrate is I work or I have a proposed endeavor in an area of national importance that requires substantial merit, that I'm well positioned to advance my proposed endeavor, and that on balance, it's better for me to remain permanently in the U.S. than it would be otherwise, and I will not negatively impact U.S. citizen workers. That's basically the national interest waiver. Now, the area of scrutiny that's being, I would say, heightened is the first requirement, which is to say that I have a proposed endeavor that is of national importance. So it used to be such that one could say, look, I'm in the field of, I keep using this healthcare, so I'll just stick with it. I'm in the field of developing healthcare technology, websites that allow easier access and access for people, accessibility for blind people, whatever, to help get their healthcare, right? And national importance, yeah, that's an area of national importance. It relates to something of important national interest that allows people with disabilities to get health insurance. Sounds great. That should be approved, right? Nowadays, they're saying, okay, that's fine. That seems really interesting, but we need to know, what is your specific proposed endeavor? Meaning you need to outline the specific project which you'll be working on and tell us how that specific project is of national importance. So you can't just talk generally about advancing this healthcare website field. You need to tell us which healthcare website, where it is, how many users it has, what is its impact, so that's the change that's taken place. And a lot of people haven't caught up with that. And it resulted in a plummeting approval rate. But of course, if you have somebody who knows what they're doing, you won't be, impacted by that.
Sure, great insight. On the other side, like typically, what segment I'm looking at it, people with like mid-career, like they're in mid-managerial roles, and even in individual contribution side, they still have over like 10-15 years of experience. Okay.
Yeah. So what I look at if somebody has 10 years of 15 years of experience is like, you have it's like, a gold mine or a mine that has so much valuable jewels inside. And I need to dig in that mine and find which gold and which jewels I can find. So
great.
So just having 15 years of experience might not mean much unless when we go into those 15 years of experience. So I kind of think about it like, okay, if somebody is at, so maybe earlier on, like 5 years ago, it would always be like, I used to do a lot of, and I still do a lot of, like people who are like DBA, right? So you're a database administrator and you've been responsible for the migration of a legacy database platform from on-prem to cloud. And now this is a more highly secure cloud-based environment, and that, the decision makers have better access to information, blah, 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 right? So this becomes, in my view, a business-related contribution. The question becomes, is this business-related contribution significant? And almost every time people say, yeah, it's significant. I got a letter from my manager. I got a letter, whatever. Fine. But, the significance of what you have done is not measured by what your internal people think about what you've done. The significance of what you have done is measured by the external opinion.
Economical impact.
Yes, the impact must be external. It must
Hmm.
be at an industry level. So so the way that I look, and the reason why DBAs, individual contributors, do well with EB1A, and this is true of many areas of folks, but this in particular is because we're able to demonstrate that a new thing now exists, which didn't exist. So think about it. You had an on-prem database.
Yep.
Now you have a cloud-based
Yeah.
database, right?
Yeah.
So it's something new that didn't exist. That's
Hmm.
what we're looking for when we say original contribution. So now we know we have an original contribution. Something new exists whereas before it didn't exist. Now what we have to do is assess that contribution for significance. And one of the beauties of our approach to EB1A is saying to the government, when we look at significance, we're only going to look at the significance of the project. We're only going to look at the significance of the product. We're only going to look at the significance of the methodology. We're only going to look at the significance of the solution. We're only going to look at the significance of the platform. We're not going to look at the significance of the individual. And that middle manager person, that's how they're going to get approved for EB1A. Because the projects, the methodologies, the platforms, the whatever it is that they've been working on becomes a proxy for them. Now, in order for that to happen, you have to prove responsibility. You have to prove originality. So that goes back to my earlier statement about why I think it's easier for individual contributors versus,
That makes sense. Yeah.
because if you're an individual contributor, I know I could prove that particular website or that particular platform or that particular database, cloud, whatever solution that belongs to you. I have work product, I have communication, I have presentations, I have testimonials that confirm you're the one responsible for this particular contribution. Now, on the other hand, is the contribution significant? How do I measure its significance? Well, I measure its significance according to the external view. So, and a big mistake that people make is they want to measure the significance according to what the company thinks. That might be okay for performance in a critical role, but for demonstrating original business contribution and major significance, which is the most important regulatory criteria, by the way. Why is it the most important regulatory criteria? Because it's what determines final merits determination. Let's take a second to think about EB1A generally. Nav, what does EB1A say? What does the statute say? It says
Extraordinary ability.
extraordinary ability. How do you demonstrate extraordinary ability? Through
Yeah.
what? Through sustained acclaim, recognized. Recognized by who? Recognized within your field, recognized by your field. Now, I cannot go ask your field, hey, field, hey, healthcare industry, what do you think of so-and-so? That doesn't make sense. I have to ask individuals within the healthcare industry. That's why we need testimonials from external individuals. It's important that those individuals have never worked with you. The other thing is there existing documented evidence about the product? Meaning, if you've developed this solution, it can, like, let's say the healthcare solution, or, Department of Transportation, you did a database for the driver's license or whatever, the car registration stuff. Is there something in the public domain that says, dear citizens of Alaska, from such and such date forward, everything that was on an on-prem database held in whatever city is now going to be on a cloud-based thing, and you have a new way to access your driver record to make sure everything is accurate. That announcement's made, maybe it's in the newspaper. That's a public, existing, documented evidence of the significance of what you've done, because it's impacting the world, it's impacting the industry.
The example you just referred is huge. I mean, it's really like top of the top kind of an achievement, right? If it is being announced at that scale, but there might be like different level of information that might be eligible. It's not just like on the newspaper at state level versus no information at all, right? So in this situation, like what I'm thinking right now, the way to go for external references as such, networking is very important. No, go outside company, don't stay back home, go outside, meet people, meet industrialists, meet influencers, and network with them, build rapport with them.
Quality of those individuals will correlate to the strength of your petition. So, like,
Absolutely.
if all I have is my cousin and my brother-in-law, and like adjudicator can tell. And if all your letters are just AI blither blather, adjudicator can tell. I mean, look, I know writing and I know reading. I mean, look, AI is amazing at some things. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's amazing. Translating is amazing. It's really great at, if you give it really good prompts, it could write a nice email. Testimony is something different. So trying to prompt a testimony still takes about as long as writing a letter. And I feel like the writing is going to be more natural. And like you could try to humanize it any way you want. I mean, it's very obvious to any reader that this is AI generated.
Yeah.
And like not only that, but it has similar outputs over and over again. So if you have 7 testimonies and they all look the same and they say the same thing over and over and over, your case is not going to get approved.
Even if tone is about same, something different is written, but the tone is similar, it is detectable. Yeah.
Very easy.
Yeah. Great. No, I think that's
and there's
a lot.
There's also grammatical consistency in AI that any like learned reader can find very easily.
Yes. In the company. Okay. So with a very generic role but have like a longer experience versus an AI guy, AI innovator who is just barely starting his career.
They both might qualify, but I would say the project manager, what we need to do is look at his projects. What you need to do is you need to demonstrate that your business related contribution is significant to your own field in your own industry. Like, it doesn't really matter what your industry is if you're generally in technology.
Anything else that contributes to the business around technology or digital transformation is eligible. Yes. I kind of experienced that as well, right? Because I read and I write content all the time. I use AI a lot as well for writing, but I still have to do a lot of my own diligence to make it like humanized. And it's not, as you said, like it's as equal time being spent as like generated by AI to give it that prompt.
I get emails, and I've actually, since like, I'm going to admit something, maybe it should or shouldn't do this, but since AI's come out, I stopped reading my emails because I'll be honest with you, I get so many emails on a daily basis and every single email is AI and it's all the same story. Like, like I've been working on my case for years and I have developed and I know everything about EB1A and I've done blah, blah, blah. And I want you to review my case and tell me da, 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 da. And it's 100% AI generated email. And so I'm thinking like, okay, this guy's using some AI operator and sending this email to like 50 different lawyers. I'm not going to waste my time looking at this shit. If you want my help, just book a consultation. I'd rather have a human interaction.
Absolutely. So so as we mentioned in the beginning, the queue is long and the people are eligible and they are in the mid-career age and they're experienced, they are knowledgeful and they are innocent, and they all also have some dreams to grow on their career. Let us help them with some clarity on entrepreneurship side, because if not, there are a lot of people like who are having a mission, like as soon as they have green card, they're going to diversify into entrepreneurship. And some people are already doing some development in-house. So let us clarify them for a few things while they are waiting for the green card, even through NIW or EB1A, since it'll still take few months, if not more than a year, to get their green card. Maybe longer right now. The wait time has been increasing lately, even for EB1. So let us help them with some guidance, like if they want to start their entrepreneurship journey, if
Yeah.
they can start it sooner than they get their EAD and green card, what they should be looking at and the kind of help they seek and how to do it right, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of mistakes that can happen on this way to make them non-compliant in immigration.
Yeah, so I love entrepreneur-based EB1A cases, one of my favorite areas. And even if one is working in a company because of the limitations of their visa, we can still make an entrepreneurship-based EB1A case for them because essentially it's a future-looking case. Think about filing an I-140. What are we doing? Like, what is this whole thing about, right? So when you file an I-140, you're filing an immigration petition as a to kind of undertake some activity, right? Like you don't just say, here's my petition. I want an EB1A because, I think that, red, white, and blue are my favorite colors, right? No, or because my kids want to go to college. You say that I'm filing this I-140 because I'm going to engage permanently in a professional activity as an individual of extraordinary ability, right? And what is that professional activity? So if, for example, you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to start my own company. So then your title might have to be owner or CEO or CTO or whatever you might be in that organization. And you need to describe what it is that you're going to be doing and start moving in that direction. So you can take steps towards accomplishing your proposed endeavor of launching this organization. You just can't work for that company yet because of the H-1B restriction if you're on an H-1B and working for another company. Now, on the other hand, if you really want to dive in, we can do an O1A route. So you can say, you know what? Let's just do O1A. O1A is a non-immigrant visa for extraordinary ability. And this is what I've done in many instances. We've started a company for the person who's applying. That company sponsors the owner for O1A. Okay, so now this person is working for his own company on an O1A visa, which is a non-immigrant visa for individuals with extraordinary ability, and the requirements are about the same thing as EB1A. There is a provision in the statute that says an individual who qualified for O1A has a presumption that they also qualify for EB1A. So it gives you a huge advantage when you apply for the green card under EB1A if you do the O1A first.
And that's on paper?
Yes, it's in the regulatory requirement. And basically, what it says is if an adjudicator is to deny an EB1A to an individual who already received an O1A, they need to provide like an extra explanation and tell the court, what where they're diverging in their opinion versus the previous opinion. That's why it's a presumption. So the presumption is the previous opinion is correct unless the adjudicator can show the previous opinion made a mistake, right? Which is rare and they don't want to do that much work. So for all intents and purposes, if you have an O1A, if somebody knows what they're doing, they will get an EB1A approved. So that's an amazing route to EB1A.
Very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So, and the best part about it is you could start your own company to sponsor your O1A, right? So that's one route to the entrepreneurship. Now, the other thing is like if your spouse is on an H-1B with the I-140 approved, you have an EAD, then you could take the leap and obviously start your own company on your H-4 EAD, right? And that could be a good basis for and provide ammunition that will go into your EB1A application as well. So I think there's a lot of advantages to seeking this route. Again, I think each individual is going to have different circumstances, and I would encourage them to reach out and we'll develop a uniquely tailored solution to meet their needs. And that's really what we do at Silmi Law. I mean, we're just about finding uniquely tailored approaches to every specific situation. I don't think that there is that's why I have a little bit of a problem with DIY approaches that are based on everything that's being said in forums, because not what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. I mean, not
It's
everything.
very generic.
It's
It's
very
very
generic.
generic, and every case is
Generic. And
different.
the
Yeah.
number one, I think, reason why our cases get approved is we do what's called pattern interruption. So we, as a policy within our firm, we make sure that we're interrupting the pattern. We don't want the pattern that is, because if we follow the pattern, we're going to have 32% approval. So the only way to get to 90% approval is to interrupt the pattern. So that's why we emphasize the individual business related contribution rather than paid PR or whatever. Even like reviewing and judging the work of others, we're not going to want you to review and judge academic things. We have our own way to do it. So those are the things that make all the difference in the world if you're a business and technology related contributor.
Yeah. And who can they seek help from? Like, of course, a person like you, from immigration perspective, to stay compliant with the rules and regulations on the immigration track. But like within the business communication, as you say, they cannot be employee for the same company for valid reasons. But of course, it's their business, it's their company, and they are owner of it, and they have to look at how business is going, because that's what they want to do eventually, like to grow up on that business, right?
Yeah.
So what are those communications barriers, pros and cons, or do's and don'ts, like, because they have to be involved in the business to move it forward, to grow.
So I mean, the safest thing, if you're on an H-1B and you are going to stick with your H-1B, the safest thing to do is not to communicate and not to work within the company. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Okay, so they can only invest.
They can invest
and be passive.
Correct. Now, the way that we do it for many people is we get them off the H-1B. I mean, that's the key.
Okay,
we got to get you off the H-1B. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So
that's
we got to get you
valid.
to an EAD or an O1A.
Last question.
From an immigration perspective, we can handle all those issues for you. And you should reach out, and there's ways to navigate these things. So for anybody that's seeking the entrepreneurship route, that's definitely something we'll help you with.
For O1A, is there any initial funding requirement, seed funding?
So you got to be able to afford the salary. So the company has to be able to demonstrate its ability to pay the salary that's going to be prescribed to the individual who is the beneficiary of the O1A.
Okay.
So if we are starting a company in order to file for O1A, then we need to basically have funding for 1 year. Now, the funding doesn't necessarily have to be liquid cash. It could be in the form of contracts that the company has made with customers, if you will, or clients.
Contracts.
Or you have to have a business plan, but you do need some funding to start.
It's not like EB5 where a fixed minimum requirement. It's just flexible. Just you have to convince.
You need to demonstrate that you have the ability to pay for what it is that you're executing.
Great.
And then you can't say, oh, my salary is going to be $20,000. I mean, if you're going to be seeking an O1A and your title is going to be CTO or CEO, you got to allocate yourself at least maybe $200,000, $250,000, depending on your geographic region.
Absolutely. Very useful information, Sharif. Thank you very much for your time today.
It's my pleasure. No, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I truly appreciate your time and attention. If something in this episode sparked a new idea, shifted your thinking, or even just made you nod along, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are just getting started. We might have made mistakes. I promise we will improve. In every episode, I'm going to dive deeper into such conversations that impact us. And hey, if you're vibing with what we are building here, share it with someone you trust. That's how good ideas spread. Until next time, think holistic, think economics, think fast, and keep leading forward.